be the first to accept this gift.
I will. I will drink. There's creamer in that, right? What? I can't drink it black. Well met, and welcome back to the order. Today's quest focuses on coffee. Is it bad for you? Is it good for you? Is it in fact demon blood, gifted to us with the intention of invasion from a legion of murderous demons? Either way, stay till the end of the video and I will give you 3 tips for smart consumption should you decide to drink the Kool-Aid. Fell blood. Coffee! Jeez! I'm Mulatto Rants, this is Muscle and Magicka, and you, my friend, just accepted a quest. The biggest argument launched by the anti-coffee camp, which by the way I'm convinced is composed almost entirely of bro mages and alliance players, is that it spikes insulin and thereby contributes to insulin resistance. Which is interesting, considering that current research actually indicates that coffee consumption is beneficial for glucose metabolism, and that it also lowers the risk of type 2 diabetes, which is kind of the opposite of the original claim. So does that mean that the alliance is full of nothing but idiots and 12-year-olds? Well, probably, but not necessarily. You see, there is actually some validity to this claim. Despite the fact that much of the research that led to this conclusion was actually based off of obese folks using isolated alkaloidal caffeine, which is not the same thing as coffee, we do know from oral glucose tolerance tests that caffeine acutely raises insulin response, as does about 1 million other things like refined carbohydrates, like unprocessed high-fiber carbohydrates, like protein, which in some cases can be every bit as insulinogenic, if not more so, as a lot of carbohydrate sources. Insulin is not inherently bad for you, alright? It's a vital hormone that we all need to survive, and as much as people continue to try to demonize it, saying that spikes in insulin are all bad is kind of like saying that all night owls are a bunch of stuck-up pricks. Well, that's true for the most part. But Illidan was a boss, and do you know why Illidan was such a boss? Because he used coffee specifically for its capacity to increase exercise performance. Or was that fell blood? Whatever. Look, we know that exercise, whether we're talking about weight training or cardio, drastically benefits insulin sensitivity. And judging from how lean Illidan stays year-round, I'm guessing he probably also drinks coffee for its direct effect on body composition, both in terms of its powerful appetite-suppressing properties, as well as the small thermogenic benefit it grants by slightly increasing metabolic rate. And by the way, it's also worth noting that being lean, or just not being obese, is also quite helpful when it comes to reducing insulin resistance and increasing insulin sensitivity. So I'm sorry, Alliance players, but it looks like the whole insulin point is going to start working for you right around the same day you start winning Battleground. Believe it or not, coffee has actually been linked with a whole host of potential benefits, such as reduced risk for several diseases, including type 2 diabetes, Parkinson's, dementia, liver cancer. It also contains several B vitamins and minerals such as magnesium and potassium, but perhaps its most impressive quality is its surprisingly powerful antioxidant content. And in fact, one study found coffee to be the #1 source of antioxidants in the American diet. Unfortunately, I think that speaks less to the benefits of coffee and more to the detriment of the American diet. Now, it's important to realize that every powerful magical artifact has its drawbacks, whether we're talking about the Eye of Sargeras, the Skull of Gul'dan, or just a particularly delicious cup of joe. And there is some data to suggest that it might be contraindicated for certain populations, such as pregnant women, people with high amounts of stress, anxiety, high blood pressure, or insomnia. Furthermore, some people just don't seem to handle it very well. They get all shaky and jittery and wired, and whether this might be because they have the gene that causes them to metabolize caffeine more slowly, or whether it's all completely in their heads, either way, such individuals might be best advised to avoid it. You also have to consider the addictive nature of coffee, which varies from person to person and also depends a lot on the amount of coffee consumed, which, to be honest, is really what this whole thing boils down to in the end anyway. You see, 2 cups of coffee is not the same thing as 10 cups of coffee, and from what we can tell, whether or not coffee is in fact a poison or a potion largely comes down to dose. Ultimately, you have to decide whether or not the potential benefits outweigh the risks. Now, if you're a pregnant woman, or at high risk for a stroke, or a member of the Frostwolf clan, then you might be smart to avoid or at least limit your intake. However, for everyone else, especially athletes, whether you're a bodybuilder or a powerlifter or just a general recreational exercise enthusiast, I think the data is quite clear that coffee can be an immensely beneficial tool. Then again, it's probably what the orcs said right before they drank Manaroth's blood and became nothing but vessels for the Legion.
You have seen your fate. You know what must be done. Kill Rock!
Now that you've made an informed decision, let me give you 3 quick tips to managing the blood curse. Number 1, try to limit your fel intake to somewhere in the range of 2 to 4 cups per day. Now some studies did find benefit in upwards of 6 cups a day, and everyone's tolerance is going to be a little bit different, but generally speaking, putting a cap on your consumption is going to help ensure that you gain the benefits whilst avoiding the negatives. Number 2, try not to drink fel blood after around 3 p.m. Maybe a little bit later, maybe a little bit earlier, depending on what time you go to bed and how quickly you metabolize caffeine, but setting a cutoff time will help you not only get to sleep, but also improve the quality of the sleep that you get. Number 3, I recommend not adding gratuitous amounts of sugar, creamer, or for the love of the old gods, butter to your coffee. Unless, of course, it fits your macros, and doesn't interfere with you getting your micros, and doesn't result in you consuming upwards of 50 grams or more of fructose per day, in which case, I guess go ahead, but if you're after the beneficial effects on body composition, then adding ridiculous amounts of calories may not be especially helpful toward that end. And finally, one last tip, just because I like you so much. If you ever find yourself corrupted, dependent, a twisted, empty shade of your former self, enslaved to a life of eternal servitude to the Burning Legion, all you gotta do is find that demon whose blood tastes like the coffee you drank and kill him. May cost you your life, but you'll be free. Probably. That about wraps it up for this quest. Let me know in the comment section below how you like your coffee, if at all. Also, whether you're Horde or Alliance. Don't forget to like the video if you gained some experience points. And if you've yet to do so, subscribe to the channel. Join the Order of Muscle and Magicka, where it is my duty as Guildmaster to train you knights and provide you with all the weapons, tools, and various spells that you may need to dispel the clouds of bro magic and level up your fitness and nutrition. Until next time, stay vigilant and bro muscle!
I will drink